Hey everybody, welcome back to Jeff Bull Central. I wanted to talk about Mafia: The Old Country today, which is the newest entry in the Mafia series. It's coming out in August, and I wanted to talk about it by way of talking about the last entry in the series, technically, which is Mafia Definitive Edition, which is the remake of the original 2002 Mafia game, and it's the game that 2K handed to a developer called Hangar 13, and Hangar 13 is making Old Country, okay? So I feel like, considering that Mafia Definitive Edition is a COVID game, actually, I remember it as being one of the prime games I played during the onset of that horrible pandemic in 2020. And they've been working on Old Country ever since. So I figure that we can look to the future of Mafia, which is a prequel in the past, by the way, ironically, by looking to the past of the series, recent past, which is actually a story about the future compared to Old Country. It's confusing. Let's do it. So I really enjoyed the Mafia Definitive Edition release. My friend back in 2002, okay, all right, this is 23 years ago now, bought the original Mafia game on PC. And I kind of didn't think much of it at the time. I was like, yeah, it's good, but it's buggy and it's hard. And he had to even agree with me that it's a really difficult game, that original Mafia. And so, you know, Mafia 2 came along, Mafia 3. Mafia 3 is the first game in the series to use the Fusion game engine, which is what Mafia Definitive Edition used, which Hangar 13 used for that. And, you know, overall it kind of contributes to a slightly stilted, slightly old-fashioned feel to Definitive Edition Mafia. But you know what? Definitive Edition Mafia is a good game. I believe I even reviewed it back when it came out in 2020 for Jeff Bull Central. I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10 game. It's solid. It's a little buggy. We'll talk about that in a bit. The first thing I want you to pay attention to between Old Country and Definitive Edition, the first bullet point here, we're doing 3 things that can tell us from Definitive Edition about Old Country. The first one is authenticity. It's the quality of verisimilitude. So nice, I named it thrice. These games have always been really, really focused on nailing a certain experience. It's a historical experience, it's true. Mafia, yeah. The Italian mob in the 20th century in America, okay. Really what they're nailing is The Godfather, okay. Really what these games are trying to ape is The Godfather. And I don't know how familiar you are with The Godfather. I love it. I'm a big fan of all 3 Godfather movies, which is weird to say because most people despise the third one, more or less. I love The Godfather, you know, so that's probably why I have such an affinity for Mafia. The thing is I love history, too. I'm kind of a history nerd. So Mafia kind of scratches a certain niche for me, because especially Definitive Edition. When they redesigned this game, Hangar 13, they did it from the ground up, because at that time it was almost a 20-year-old game, and it needed a redesign. And what they did is they really plumbed the depths of like Chicago in the 1930s and New York City in the 1930s, all these American metropolis centers. And, you know, they gave it a Chinatown, they gave it a Little Italy, they gave it a this, they gave it a that, they gave them nice long stretches where you could drive these vehicles that are just tremendously difficult to fishtail around corners, but when you get the dynamics of the physics right of the vehicles, man, it feels great. Do you know what's cool about the cars in Mafia Definitive Edition? They're all manual transmission. I love it. You gotta shift gears on Xbox controller. I played it on Series X this week to get all this footage and kind of get my feet back into it. You know, my feet, get my beak wet. Get a beak. And so I love the manual transmission thing. I love that it's hard to steer and drive these cars. It feels good. It does feel stiff, but that's the thing. Old Country is going to have a benchmark to touch here, and that is reproducing this specific era, which is Sicily in the 1900s, which, if you're a fan again of Godfather, harkens to The Godfather Part 2. Okay, so authenticity is the watchword here. Thrice authenticity. The second bullet point I want you to focus on is that this Mafia, the Old Country, much like Mafia Definitive Edition, is going to focus on story, and it's going to use technology to help propel that story. I was just watching a little documentary thing, a little 4-minute video that Hangar 13 and 2K put out, talking about the fact that they've switched from the Fusion engine that 2K developed for the likes of Mafia 3 and Definitive Edition, and it's Unreal 5 now, okay? It's Unreal Engine, and you know the possibilities with Unreal 5 are just fantastic. And so they're using this new game engine to kind of automate a lot of the processes so that they can focus on the story, okay? And it's a narrative kind of, it seems like it's not channeled. It seems open world. But you know, Mafia 3, if you remember, Mafia 3 is a much more open world experience, whereas Mafia Definitive Edition kind of breaks the open worldness into two separate modes of play, even though they're kind of incorporated in the same thing. But in Mafia Definitive Edition, you play story more so than you play open world, okay? And they say that Old Country is going to be the exact same way. It's really about story. It's really about channeling the character into a narrative that they hopefully, right, won't forget, that we will love as much as something like Godfather 2, okay? So if you're expecting the great open world experiment such as you might find in a Grand Theft Auto 6, hopefully, it's sort of like that, I think, but it's probably going to be much more narrative channeled, like Mafia Definitive Edition. Okay, the third bullet point that I want to focus on, and this is kind of a cross your fingers and hope this isn't the case situation. Mafia Definitive Edition could be a little buggy, okay? And I say this with all my heart. I say this with all my love for Hangar 13 and 2K and what they accomplished with this definitive edition of Mafia, because it is a fun experience. Nice. It's a nice little Mafia Godfather shoot bang bang drive. But the thing is it is a little buggy. I encountered, even in my playthrough here just this last week, I encountered models that froze, animations that froze, objects that wouldn't react properly, missions that didn't want to start, missions that didn't want to proceed. And I feel like after 5 years of having been released since COVID, they should have patched, they could have patched, they ought to have patched, and it seems like they kind of didn't that much. I'm not going to go through the patch history to discover that, of course. It just seems a little buggy, okay? And so my concern with the Old Country is that, hey, games get rushed to release all the time, and they're not quite finished. Games get switched from an old game engine to a new game engine and come out buggy all the time. It happens, okay? And honestly, I feel like just watching the games coming out now that use Unreal 5, I feel like it must be a pretty, I'm not a developer. I'm a dude who play video game and talk about video game. I feel like Unreal 5 is a manageable thing. It's a very manageable engine because they're getting some great feedback from it. They're getting some great product out of it, okay? But I just want you to know that Hangar 13 did release a slightly unfinished product last time around, and it's possible that it might be disappointing in that way. But all of that said, you take those 3 bullet points: authenticity, the focus on technology being a focus on story, and the possibility that it could be buggy okay? Just like a horse-drawn thing that you ride through Sicily while you're shotgunning fools. That's kind of how I feel Old Country could exist in reality when I'm playing it in August, which I will be, okay? So those are the watchwords. Those are what I think Old Country could be. I hope the last one is inaccurate. I hope I'm being salacious here. I hope it's a smooth experience and that the first two really overcompensate. But that's it. When Mafia the Old Country comes out, I will play it for Jeff Bull Central. I will review it for y'all. Look for that video at that time. And please go to Jeff Bull Central, check out more videos, subscribe, like, do whatever you gotta do. I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. Turn off the video. You're done. You can't refuse it. Told you. Bye.
Sun our way.